Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Warriors for Christ. I'm Damien, and we have Olin here as well. We should also be having my wife joining on the panel today. So we hope everyone had a great week and safe, and with everything that's going on. The only thing that we can do for each other is pray for each other, speak well of each other, and just try to be there. So with that, we're gonna be getting started. Um, Last week, after our talk, we said that we would be talking about parenting um, for this one. So this can go in all types of ways. This could be about physical parenting, between us natural parents raising kids, and then also us being parenting by the Lord. So we just let the discussion go from there. So this was Olin's idea. So Olin, did you have anything in mind of how you want this to go? What topics you wanted to actually dive into
Not really. I
this
was just gonna
evening?
let it flow. Let it flow. See where it go.
Let it flow, let it flow. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I like when we just talk, and it just goes from one subject to another subject to another subject. That's how I actually prefer it. It's all our conversations with they, which for the most part they do. So do you want to talk about natural first and then the spiritual, or
Yeah, we can just do natural first. You know,
okay?
as us as parents, maybe even as us as when we was kids and how we was parented and stuff like that.
Okay, that sounds good. You want to go first? Or want me to go first? What you think?
I'll let you go.
Okay, yeah, okay, that sounds good. After I said that, I was like, well, maybe I should do that because I know you're just getting into your evening, uh, and it's not like you had a nice long week of work. Well, since I'm well rested, I'll go ahead and start. I would say, talking to I mentioned this to my wife all the time that I think I was blessed with some of the best parents in the world. Of course, every child's gonna say that about their parents. Hopefully, I was lucky enough to have both my parents there um, until my father passed in the early 2010s. But for the most part, they were always there, supported me in everything I wanted to do, supported my brothers, my crazy brothers, during the time when he was growing up. They supported them. They were always there for them no matter what. So I was lucky and blessed. And having them around opened my eyes up to what parenting should really look like, especially being a father. Um, it really does being a father when you're a father. It makes it so much easier, especially when you father the correct way. Um, and I always say, even as my church, I have a spiritual father that can no one replace. That would be Donald Peart, and then I have my natural father, which is Willie Gibbs, that no one on this earth will ever replace. So I was lucky with that. Having both my parents around, my mom and my dad, and they just instilled in me so many things, and they were just there. We wasn't the wealthiest of family, if anything, we came from very low income area, but they worked really hard to support four boys and eventually my little sister, so the five of us. And they did all they can do. They sacrificed so much. Um, Sorry, my wife is joining. They sacrifice so much for us, and that's what a parent does. Once you become a parent, your focus should be on providing for your child and establishing a groundwork that would later benefit them going into adulthood. And even like now with my son, and I tell my wife all the time that he's our son. It's rare that I ask anyone to even babysit him. I want to do things. I want my wife to be able to do things, but I always say, this is our responsibility. I don't want no one else to raise my son. I want that to be our job. And I know many parents be like, oh, I'm getting them. Yeah, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with taking breaks, but if there's no one there that we can get to babysit him, I'm more than happy to stay home to babysit him. I'm not gonna ever be like, oh, I gotta stay home. I can't go nowhere because of him. No, we decide to bring a child in this world So it is our duty to raise him and, try to establish things in him that would make his life better. That's my old goal. That's like one of my motivations, besides being a husband, is trying to raise my son to the best of my ability and not worry about what I could be doing wrong. I never think about it. Like I'm human, so I know I'm gonna do stuff wrong. So only I focus on is the things that I can do right. And not worry about if am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? I don't focus on that. I did this right. He loved it, so I'm gonna continue doing that until he changes his mind. Until I see that he doesn't like that being done to him as a father. So, all right. So I'm sorry. Here I got a couple comments. Oh, can you hear me? Oh.
Yeah, I can hear you. Something was
Okay.
going on earlier. I couldn't tell if that was your side or my side, but don't worry about it now.
Okay, yeah. Once I start talking, it's hard for me to see that, I'm getting comments. And then Tiffany asks, my headphones connected to. No, Tiffany, your headphones should not be connected to my computer because I can hear my headphones are connected. So I'm not sure what's wrong with that. But yeah, so yeah, I was blessed to have good parents, and I really think that the way they treated me and just being there, it was just a motivation. I always tell people before I went to college, I struggled with things like reading and, just basic educational things that, you think it wouldn't be an issue with. But even though I struggled with those things, my parents were always there. I didn't score high on things like the SAT score and all the stuff that, the world said that we need to be good at. I didn't necessarily was good at those things, but my parents were there and pushed me. They never criticized anything wrong that, the world may perceive as being bad, such as reading and writing. I was not that great at that, but they never said anything that they said, oh, they was excited as I was going to college. I got accepted to college, which was a blessing in itself and a miracle at that. But yeah, they were there. They supported me doing that. When I was playing ball, they supported me in that. Like that's what matters. Even when your child mess up, okay, how can you turn this around to a point where you're supporting them and not, damaging them, bringing repercussions and things like that would hinder them. They would just focus on the positive and how they could build me up. So that's kind of my my childhood and my youth in a nutshell. Anybody else want to go next?
So, in my standpoint, I was lucky enough to be raised by both my parents too in the same house, and that helped me in my role as far as when it comes to me as my parent as well. A lot of times, I see myself as just like, it showed me what to do, and it also showed me what not to do, or something I didn't want to do, growing up. And so, and that helped a lot as far as when it comes to my son. But I don't think you could ever really be fully prepared. There is never. I don't think that is because I think I'm constantly being like, okay, what is it? Do I need to change something? Do I need to do something better, or do I stop doing something altogether? That's a constant thought in my head. That's a constant factor in my relationship with my son, because we are cultivating an individual, a life from all the way from the beginning, and that's a lot. And so I always try to make sure that I am being, first of all, a good example. So I have to be, make sure I carry myself in every aspect as the good example as best as I could be, because he watches and hears every single thing. And we have to be okay to make mistakes. We have to
Yep.
be okay with, you know what, I'm not the best in this area, and we have to be able to um, be okay with that. But even still, um, we still have to try to at least bring some kind of acknowledgement to it. So like be like, okay, so I'm not the best at this area, but hey, um, let me try to at least show him or how it should be done. I guess how it should be. I guess so to speak. How am I going to fill up in that area?
Yeah, I mean that all that you said makes sense. Is you know, no one. There's no. I'm not gonna say a guideline because I do believe there's a guideline to how being a parent is. Um, and once again, I don't push merchandise, but like I said, I did write a book about parenting, and the way I got my guideline from, I got it from scripture. I just pulled from scriptures, and I just saw how God is our Father, and He's the perfect example. So I just took examples from that to kind of write this book I wrote about being a parent and being a child. But yes, we as humans, there's no guideline. It is about experience, and that's the reason why I was saying earlier how it's crucial that parents are involved in a child's life, whether you're a mother, whether you're a father, the father, the mother, you need both to properly um, help a child be raised. I'm not
Hello.
saying it can't. I'm not saying it can't be
Hello.
done. Yeah, how you doing, Tiff? Welcome. I'm not
Well,
sure. I'm not saying that it's that you can't do it alone if you're a father, that you can't do it alone if you're a mother. But I'm just saying it is equal benefit. It is equal benefit, or is it is better if both parents are around because you are going to make mistakes and there's a balancing that comes with both spouses being there. But like you said, we can't focus on what we are doing wrong because what's going to remember if you are doing the best you can be and you're doing all that you can do to make that child happy, the child is going to remember all the happy stuff, all the good stuff. And one example I wrote about in my book was how me and Kyrie, we were racing and how we were running and he fell and he scraped his knee up pretty bad. And I took him back to the house. I wrapped his bandage up and I was like, "Hey, Kyrie, all right, let's settle down now, sit back and rest some." But he was like, "No." He was like, "No." This is what he said. He said, "I'm ready to go back outside. You bandaged my knee up. Why am I going to stay inside?" And to this day, he still talks about how I fixed his knee up and made him better just so he can play. So a kid will, for the most part, always remember the positive things. We may have our faults, we will have our faults, but if we try to build upon all positive things, that's what the child is going to hold on to and remember. So we can't hold ourselves back. So I know you said, you're always wondering. I always wonder that too. Like, man, what does he grow up? And my errors are going to cause him to be a certain type of way. Because the scripture does talk about how the sins of the father can have an impact on the child. The child don't have to do anything wrong. It's just the sins that the father commit causes a reaction in the child. Hey, Janae, I see that you joined. So thank you for coming joining us. But we can't focus on that. We got to focus on the positive. We just got to always ask the Lord to forgive us, forgive my father's sins, and so forth and so forth, so that our child or our children can be raised up and so they can remember all the good stuff because that's what's ultimately going to make them a better person. All the positive things.
Yeah, and you also mentioned something that now this kind of go into spiritual too, that as far as generational curses, there's generational behaviors um that we carry into our children, and I try I say I try my best
to cancel that out or any of that, especially when I see it taking place or when I see it trying to manifest. And because I feel as though one, I try to cancel that at the root so it doesn't take place after generation. And because I feel as though that is my role as a father to make sure that, you know, we fulfill or try to fulfill every aspect of protection of every aspect in life of which they can come. And for me, that's just another area where, okay, look, one that I might have allowed in my life, but I don't want to allow into his. So I have to take up that root or take up that fight in order to cancel it out and make sure it doesn't keep repeating at generation after generation.
Yeah, like I said, I agree with that. But this how I feel. You know, I know a lot of people use the term generation curses and stuff. The way I sense, and I mean, as a generation curse, is that it's a curse because we put into the child the same thing that we didn't want to be in our life, and now that child struggles with that because we have raised them in it. So it's not as a curse as, oh, you know, like we see in fiction things that I'm a werewolf, so it's genetically in the child or in the air, and they have to do it. It's not. I don't see it that way. It's not something that is part of their being. But I do believe that is stuff that we put into our child. You know, whether emotions and acts and words. Like a child won't necessarily grow up to start cursing unless the parents around them curse a lot. A child may not get into smoking cigarettes unless the parents smoked around their kids a lot, and so likewise with drinking. So that's where the curse come in, is that when we introduce them to these wrong things. Because I totally believe that once you're a believer and you ask the Lord to break everything, he breaks it. Once we get saved, we are released from everything. He said that he has set the captives free. He has liberated us. He has opened the prison doors. It says that he has the key to life and death. He has the key to every bond, every yoke. He has that. So therefore, there's no such thing as a curse once we come to him. But the curse is that we can't get out the mentality that we can overcome something. That's the curse, as in alcoholism. That's not a curse. It's not something that the child is going to have to do, but being that it was woven into their life, maybe through parenting, that now it's the curse because it's a struggle they have on, and that's what we don't want to do. We don't want to place into our kids these things, and that's why I always say that's one of the things I wonder about. Is like, I may not recognize something that I'm doing something wrong, and that may affect my son. And so that's what I always pray against, that, and I pray this to the Lord. I said, let my sins be my sins, and let my wrongdoings be my wrongdoings and not pass it to him, and I also pray, let my father's sins be forgiven, because we saw that in the Old Testament. Of course, we don't live by Old Testament rules, but it was a reason why they did it. And they will always say, Lord, forgive my sins and forgive the sins of my forefathers. Because we don't want that to pass down. We want to, teach our kids, like, no, you can overcome what I struggle at, and that's how we break, the so-called curse. That people, because we're believers, there's no curse. How can you say you're a believer, but you saying that you have a family curse? So if you have a family that you can't overcome, then you're literally saying that Christ can't overcome that in you. And if he can't, why you believe in him? I don't want to believe in a God that's not stronger than my problems.
I definitely agree. And when it comes to that's why it matters for me. That's why it matters as far as who you marry or who is the other the parent of the child, because one, we're not going to know everything right, but be able to have somebody to then come in and be able to not pinpoint it, but also correct it as far as within ourselves. Because some things I might not do right. I might be wrong, and she'll come in and be like, "Hey, this is wrong. Daddy didn't mean this way. Da 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 this, da 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 that." And I could do the same thing, you know. And it helps to have both of us there and around, because one, we're human. Two, we can make mistakes. And so enough to have the other parent there as well to then correct and to bring notice to it and then correct it. And not just with you, but with the child. You know, something I might do something wrong or be in my feelings, or I'll be tired. He does something, get on my nerves, and I'm like, you know what? She's like, Daddy didn't mean it that way. Daddy just tired. You know, and just come in and correct it and fix it, so he don't keep holding on, so you don't hold on to it for the rest of the night or whatever.
True.
Because man, it's hard. It really is. Like I give props to people that do it on their own, because I don't know how I would. I don't think I would have been able.
Man, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I know men do it. Men do it. And I give props to men that can do it. But I give props to the women, especially if they're raising a son, and you know, and that son comes out right. I give props to you ladies that can raise a boy. I'm not saying raising a girl is bad, hard. I'm not sure, because I don't have any daughters. But I know with a boy, I know it's something else. And for not to have a male presence that's helping you with that, I know it takes a lot. So I just wanted to share that real fast.
I'm sorry my camera's not on, but I just wanted to add to that because I grew up in a single parent home, me and my older sister. And I can tell you that just from my experience growing up without my dad in the home, I would say that whether you're raising a son or a daughter, it's really important to have that balance there of two parents, just because of that check and balance. I'm getting to experience it as a parent, seeing that with Kyrie. And in some ways, it shows me kind of what may have been missing for me growing up. But you know, and that's definitely not a any kind of um, you know, disrespect to my mom, because I definitely believe she did the best job that she could, and it definitely took a village to raise us. You know, I had a lot of extended family around too that also assisted. I don't know how people can do it without that network of people to help them with their kids, because just I can't imagine, you know, what a person goes through, and they may not have that additional support of family members.
Yeah, all the help that you can get is good. The good support is they're just amazing to have when raising a child. But like I said, I always say that it comes down to the parents. That child is no one but the mommy and daddies. So all the support is coming there. Everything else is a bonus. And I know, Olin, you were saying earlier, like you know, how you go back and you know, show him, like, yeah, and talk to him like, hey, this is why I react this that way and so forth, because you're tired. And like, yeah, I do the same thing all the time. I'll discipline them, and then I'll go back and I'll explain, like, this is the way, you know, this is why I did this, and you know, this is why you got in trouble. But one thing I've learned, and every time I do that, I still get corrected though, because you know, I just look and say, the way I respond to that situation, is that the same way how the Lord responds to me? You know, when I do something wrong, you know, does he put me in timeout for 5 or 10 minutes? You know, does he ever do that? And that's tough, because, you know, we put our kids in timeout. I'm not saying that you don't. Like, I still, you know, try to teach them, like, you can't do certain things. Every time I do, you know, discipline them a certain type of way, I normally get corrected, because I'll be like, that's not how the Lord does for us. He literally forgives us and then tell us to go on about our business and keep going. You know, he does say there's consequences for, you know, doing certain things, but his love, you know, I just think overshadows what we do, and how we parent, you know, how we raise this, you know, how we are his children. And I just think it's tough getting on board with how he is our daddy, and then how we supposed to raise our parents. It's just unbelievable and completely different.
Yeah. Especially if we try to look at, what's around us and how other people, because we're not the type of parents that, just give him everything or anything that he wants. For one, it's like, well, whatever you do get, you want to make sure that you work for it. And you're not like basically you're not going to get something just for doing what you're supposed to do. Like that's not like you're supposed to do this. Like don't look for a gift and look for something just because you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I can look at it as far as that's how God is with us for a extent. We are supposed to, or we are built to really push ourselves forward into Him, to really grow in Him. And when we lead our son, especially when it comes to spiritual, as of right now in his age, all we basically do is lead by example in that aspect. We don't try to really force it on him or anything like that, but he sees us pray daily. He sees us how we worship. He sees us all in that aspect. We don't really try to force him and sit him down and be like, hey, this is what it is. Now we do apply it to stuff that he in his level, like when it comes down to with his friends, we apply it basically when it comes down to school, we apply it in different areas where in different areas for how he communicates. But that's still only when certain things like, okay, how should you carry yourself? Why should you carry yourself? And reiterate stuff like who loves you, who are you, a child of you're a son of God, and God loves you, stuff like that. But other than that, we just basically lead by example. That's basically that's the 90% of the time we lead by example.
That's how children learn.
Yeah, and it'll be amazing because we be in church and he is here and see everything, and then he'll come back like sometime later and he'll repeat what was said. So it's like it might not look like he's paying attention, but he is actually paying attention. Because he'll come back and repeat anything, some stuff that was said in church that we didn't even think he was really paying attention to.
I think, and you bring up a really good point, Olin, because even with Kyrie, like sometimes we can say something to him 5 times and it won't stick. And I promise you, it'll be that one time we say something and that thing sticks with him forever. And just like and it's times like that I'm like, whoo, I'm glad we actually try to like live what we say as far as like, being Christians and following the word, and even in our speech, because I know like he'll just pick up on words and I'll be like, whoo, I'm so glad I don't curse, like because of how he'll pick up on things. And that's just one example of how children really do pick up they learn just by watching how you act, how you react, what you say, and how you say things. And especially at this age, Kyrie is a few years younger than your son, but the same principle applies. I think maybe in some ways more so just because of his level of understanding at being 3. It's just so important that you watch your conversation and how you live your life around your kids, because they are paying attention.
Yeah, that's so true, and that's what parents really need to learn. Or if you think about being a parent, is like before you want to become a parent, like you need to be watching yourself, knowing what type of things that you do that you don't want to pass on to your child. It's not what you say to the child that they're going to do, is what they see you do that they're going to do. So you can say all day long, don't do I'll just smoke it or drink it, Well, if you smoke and drink all day, that's what they're going to want to do. They're going to want to smoke and drink. And like I said, it's just not humans that do this. It's all in the entire world. Most of the animals and creatures, everything, some of them is just instinct, it's just in them. But a lot of times, animals learn what to do or how to build a nest or how to hunt by looking at their parents, by just being around them. So we as parents, we need to be very observant of the things that we do if you want your child to succeed, or to be better than you do, or be better than be better than us. Is that you can't let them see the things that you don't want them to do, and not just like on television. No, in your life, because hopefully they're not just looking at television all day long. They're interacting with you, and that's where they're going to pick up their habits. That's where they're going to pick up things they like to do. They're going to pick up their interests. That's usually how you see a lot, is that a lot of parents children pick up what their parents that are interested in. If their parent is into music and playing instruments and drums and guitar, usually the child, for the most part, will want to get interested in it as well. They may not stay with it, but it's going to be a time and point in their life where they will be interested in music because their parents are into it. And that's why a lot of parenting fail. And I think we see that a lot, especially in the African American community, is that we try to tell our kids what to do through our verbally, instead of acting it out. Showing them, oh, you want to go to college? Oh, let me show you how you get to go to college. Or you want to start this trade? Oh, let me show you how you start this trade. Or you want to be a plumber? Oh, okay. Oh, you're gonna be a plumber? No, you can't do that. Start getting them things, instruments, and working with them, getting their hands on, so they can learn how to become a plumber. It's not what we say, it's what we do. And even today, when I'm working around the house and I'm doing things, I'm fixing something, I get Kyrie, even though he has no clue what he's doing, and I do hand over hand, and I get him working on the walls, using the measuring tape. He has no clue what he's doing at this age, but he's interested in what I'm doing. So being that he's interested in what I'm doing, I bring him in on it. I can't tell him what to do. I'm gonna let him see it and feel it for himself on how to be successful. And that's the main point with kids. We got to show them. Especially if they are interested, especially if they are coming to you for guidance in a particular thing.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Even on the little stuff, like I can't. I'm glad you're not on here. But I am a true heart that you have to. If I'm going to tell you to do something, then I'm doing it as well. You know what I mean? Like, just for the simple stuff, it can be clean up behind yourself, clean your room, stuff like that. Pick up behind yourself. If I'm going to tell you to do something, I'm showing you that I'm doing it myself. I don't want to be the person that be like, do as I say, not as I do type of parent. Nah, I'm doing it too, and I'm gonna show you how to do it. And then that's why I demand you from you what I demand for myself, basically. So, and I can't stand it when it's like the other way around, when it's like, well, just do it outside. I know I don't do it, but this is what you're going to do. It's like, no. If you want them to do it too, you have to show them that you're doing it. You have to do it as well, basically.
Yeah.
Not you're just saying one thing but doing the other. All they're going to really see and pay attention to is what you do, not really so much what you say. So you have to be able to back up what you're saying or demanding from them by doing it as well.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree. I'm sorry, Damien. Were you about to say something?
Go ahead.
Please.
Go ahead. I talk a lot.
To that point, Olin, I think that's so important just in teaching like life lessons too, right? So for example, I can only speak from my perspective as being a woman, but if, for example, a woman's mother says, okay, respect yourself, respect your body, but the mother does something opposite. Well, what that girl is going to take away from that is like, but you don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, that's how you live your life. So I'm going to do what I want. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not always how it works.
Or
But go ahead.
sorry, I was just want to say, just saying what you said. I'm sorry about cutting you off. I just want to say, or they see what you're doing and believing that's how you use your body.
Exactly. I was gonna get to that point too. So like maybe your child might not do exactly what you're doing, but they'll find themselves in the same sorts of cycles that you're in. So if you have issues with, relationships or so on and so forth, or you keep ending up dating the same kind of guy, for example, and it takes, and then you have to think about like, where did I pick this up from? And in some cases, that can be, not all, but in some cases, that can be a result of what you've seen growing up. So then it's up to you to like recognize those patterns and those cycles, so that when you, in turn, if you do become a parent, then you can address those things and make sure that you actually are modeling the right thing. Especially if you have been in a situation where you did not see the right kind of behavior model. And honestly, that's where I believe Jesus comes in his word, because I feel like that no matter what you might have seen or been exposed to growing up, it's at some point once you reach adulthood, you then have the responsibility to do better, and that can be your guidelines for how you do so.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to bring up is, and this is, I think, also very important, is one of the things I talk about in the book that I posted in the link in the chat, is that one of the descriptions that Jesus used is that it was into the kingdom you must become as a child. So with that alone, we have to look at what a child does, and somehow that translate into our life as believers, adults, whatever it may be. But it also shows you what God does as being the father by looking at a child. And one thing I've learned is to try to react to him, seeing the things that he's interested in, and then building upon that. For example, I try my best not to do it, and I still do it. Is that Kyrie's 3, and all he's interested is mommy and daddy. And even now we're going through this world event that we have, and he's with us all the time. And in that time, all he wants is mommy and daddy. This is a crucial point, and I think this is what a lot of people may mess up or error, is that when a child is giving you that much time or giving you that much attention, you have to do your best to give them that attention, even though it's tough as a parent, because first of all, we don't have the energy that a child has. Kyrie, he gets up when he gets up when we go wake up, and he goes to sleep when we go to sleep. So that means there's kind of no break from him. But on that time, all he wants is mommy and daddy. He wants to do what mommy and daddy is doing. He wants to eat what mommy and daddy is doing, and everything in between. And if we push him away, that's going to affect him, in the long run. He's going to see, oh, mommy and daddy don't love me. Mommy and daddy don't want to spend time with me. So we can't push him away and just like, oh, go, use the iPad or do this or go play pretend. It's like, no, you have to be involved in their life and it's spending time. And, you got to think about this. If this is something that children do, is want to be with their parents all the time. I even worked in education for a long time, and I worked with kids who were emotionally disabled, physically disabled. I apologize for my camera. It keeps going in and out. But even though their parents cause these children trauma in their life, these children still wanted their parents. So it shows you that children is all 100% about their parents. So that makes us think, being believers, how much are we all about Christ? Are we all about Jesus? I mean, like literally want to spend with and be with him all the time. Like that's something to really think about. Jesus said you can't enter heaven unless you are a child, or unless you are as a child, as in behavior and lifestyle. And one thing a child wants is to be with their parent 24/7. you know, it makes you think, are we actually being a good parent? Because if you think about it, the scripture says God, all he wants is to spend time with us. So to become a good parent, you got to spend time with your child. That's what's going to make that relationship last. And I praise my cousin, who's she's a single parent mom, and she has 3 kids, and she gives all her kids attention, and she does all these things for her children, and they still all about her. All they want is her, and she gives them that attention, and that is affecting their relationship, because as they're getting older, only thing they still want is to be with their parent, or be with her, because she gives them that time. She shows them the affection that that they want. So we need to self-check ourselves. Are we giving our children the time that they are requiring? They are requiring the time. God doesn't force us to spend time with us. He wants to. And he will give us the time when we come to him. So it's like, well, for us, if we want to consider ourselves a good parent, when that child comes and wants to spend time with you, you got stuff aside. I know we have obligations. Some people got to go work for 8 hours and got to do things around the house, got to cook, clean. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about when you are free and you sitting on the couch and you're tired, dead tired, and your child comes to you. That's a sacrifice, and it's tough. It's hard. How much energy
Yes,
these kids have. with how much energy these kids have, it's, oh my goodness. And imagine having triplets and quadruplets. Oh my goodness. You see I'm great now, man. I can imagine how great I would be if I had 3 more young ones running around at the same time.
Oh my goodness. I can't even imagine. It's so awesome though when you do take that time, because you see light bulbs going off. It gives you it's like capitalize on that time. As hard as it can be sometimes, because we're tired, we have our own things that we need to take care of, but just taking that 5 minutes to share something that you like with your child. Like, you like reading, so one thing that I like to do is read. So I will read with Kyrie, not necessarily one of my books, one of his books, but based upon that, just seeing the connections that he makes just based off of that time. I think and I hope, those kinds of things stick with him as he grows up too, that he'll have a love of reading, that it'll help him later when he's in school, as far as, him being able to achieve, because that groundwork has been laid. And it's awesome. Like, I remember just recently, I read a book with him, and he was able to verbatim go page by page by memory and read each phrase on the page. And I was blown away out, because I know he can't quite read yet, even though he recognizes certain things. But the fact that he remembered it. So that's just, just an immediate example of how powerful that time, no matter how short, that you spend, one-on-one with your child can be.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. And I also like to say that there's nothing wrong with needing to take a break either. Just wanted to add that, because sometimes a break is needed. Sometimes a break, is pretty much needed. It don't have to be a long one. Don't even have to be no big deal. Just need a time away for yourself to recollect and gather yourself together. Especially in this time when you are 24/7. Seeing them around 24/7. That is a lot.
So okay, so how would you put that in perspective? To, like I said, because I know everybody says that, like, that's something that the entire people is to say that you needed a break from that. But if you were to go and teach from the scriptures, where would you show that break at?
I will get back with you on that.
Olin, he get me the same way.
I know.
Yeah, like I say, I mean, like I said, we have topics, and we try to present. Like I said, and I try to come from the scriptures, and a kid, all it is about their parents, and God, the Father, never takes breaks from us until we consider ourselves mature. But even that, He's still there. I mean, of course, like I said, we're not God. We can't stand a level. I'm just saying, if we're just using Him as what you call it, an example. I don't see it, but no, we don't live forever. We don't have the omnipresent type of thing that the Lord has. So I understand that physically we need a break. So I agree with you on that because our bodies just need it. I just wanted to say that because people try to use that as a means to get away from their kids. So I agree with you 100%. That our physical body, we need to take breaks. But some people abuse that and take too much of time away from their kids.
Oh, most definitely.
Oh yeah, and I will say this too. Sometimes I know there'll be times where Damien's like, let me get 30 minutes, an hour here or there, and I'll be the same. I'll be like, I just gotta go lay down. I'm tired. I can't. And we definitely give each other that time when it's necessary. So it's not like it's not we not both going like all the time, 24/7, without taking any time away. And one thing that I have learned to do is build in alone time. So sometimes that means getting up early before they're up and spending some time just in quiet. Sometimes I'll just sit and just be in the quiet. Usually, if I can take that time, I'll read some word or whatever. And Damien will a lot of times take his me time at night when we're asleep. So I think it's also important for your mental health to build in that time too. Just because, when they up, it's on. So you got to try to fit in, your time to exhale in between. Because the other thing that you don't want to do is because you're not taking that moment to exhale. You're not taking that time to, fill yourself back up. Whether it be with prayer, the word, whatever. You're not gonna be at your best. You're gonna find yourself operating out of your flesh more so than out of the spirit, which you don't want either. So it's really important that you, even in the midst of the 24/7 life, the 24/7 is of just right now with what's going on in the world. Still trying your very best to carve out that time, whether it be 20 minutes or an hour or whatever, just whatever you can get, to just kind of breathe as well. I think that's really important.
I would say I think what Olin said is correct, along with what you said, and that is you need to take your break, but don't take your break when they want you. I'll say it that way. You got to find in your schedule when they're not around to recoup yourself, because when they're up, you're about them. So I will put it that way. Yes, we can take that break, but and as Tiffany said, I take my break the moment he goes to sleep and Tiffany goes to sleep, I am up. I'm getting stuff done I want to do around the house. I'm studying, I'm reading, I'm writing. Like I get all that accomplished from about 12 to like 6 in the morning. Like that is my me time. And if you want to wait from your child, like plan a time around when they're not around. They went out to the store with the other spouse, or they were grandmas. They are asleep. Take the opportunity to relax and do something that's going to, like say, recoup your mind. You have to gather yourself. Just don't sit there. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with TV, but I'm not saying all the time. You gotta find something to put your energy into that's going to, put back into you, and do that when they don't want you. If they're around there crying for you, don't be like, I'm going to take my break now. So I'll take that correction with that. So good job, Olin and Tiff.
The
Chris,
other piece.
sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, B. Finish.
No, I was just about to say we got a comment, but you can go ahead and then I'll read the comment.
Just to that point too, as parents, y'all need to still make sure y'all get some time with each other. So, if you are, you are not a single parent and you're married, or whatever, like once your son or daughter go to sleep, if y'all need to like just get some time to Netflix and chill, do that too. Once they go to sleep, like fit in that time where you can, because that's important to the health of your relationship as well. I just wanted to add that in there too.
Oh, no problem. We have a comment that says, "But boys are told they need to, soil their royal oats before they get a wife." Like, once again, we talked about that, and that is, putting the wrong things into your child, and that's what it comes down to. If you're sowing that, you're sowing something in, you're sowing what's wrong in their life. You're sowing error, I would say, because, like, say, if you are with your spouse and you're married or whatever it may be, you're together, they should see as an example mommy and daddy. And just by being mommy and daddy, hopefully that's what they grow up and want to see. Is like, I want to grow up to be a parent. I want to grow up to be a father, or I want to grow up and start my own family, because that's what they see. They see mommy and daddy. Now they see mommy and daddy sleeping around. That's what they're gonna do. So no, you shouldn't be, pushing to soil your royals. This is not coming to America. We're already here. So you should be pushing, to be a parent. This is how you be a parent, and just try to show them that, and not tell them. So that's one thing is wrong, and that's a bias, because we that comes from culture and history, that you often see men can do this, but the daughter has to grow up to be a fine in-house mother and stay at home, but the son can sow his royal oats and all that type of stuff. So that's all cultural stuff, bias, error ways, practicing things that are old and outdated, that's not even part of this culture. If we want to say that America has a culture, that's just a whole different story. But that's just error.
Yeah, and I also, to that point, I don't think there should be a big difference between how you raise your son and how you raise your daughter in that sense, and how you teach them to value themselves and to value other people. The importance of valuing your body. I think men need to hear that as much as women do, because the thing is, if you encourage your son to go out there and sleep around, who he sleeping with, you know what I'm saying? So it's really a thing where they shouldn't be taught two different things. It really should be like, hey, this is what it is. This is what you should do. This is why you should do this way. And if you don't, these are possible consequences of your actions, point blank, period. Like, I never understood why, men and women were supposedly taught differently in that way. Just because it's like, if you want your daughter to be respectable, you should want your son to be respectable too. If it's not acceptable for your daughter to be that way, it shouldn't be acceptable for your son to be that way.
We have here, it's not necessary that a child be like their parents. No matter how much the parent try to show their children the right way, we just have to pray that to God that they do the right thing. I would say no and yes to that. And the reason why I say that is that it's based on what the parent does. I believe that affects the child. Like I said, I'm using scripture here. I'm using the Bible that we see in Genesis, that it was Adam and Eve that ate the fruit and got kicked out of the garden. But in that, sin came in, and Cain knew how to kill. There was no, Adam didn't teach him that. It was just based on Adam's own actions that he learned that. It came to him. So sin can change from one generation to another, but it's all based on sin from the previous generation and what they did. So that's why we try our best to separate ourselves from that, so that our sins don't affect them. Of course, I love Nehemiah, and one thing that Nehemiah always prayed is that he prayed that the sins of the forefathers be forgiven. You know why? Because their sins, the forefathers' sins, were affecting them. You know, they didn't listen to God. They continued to worship Baal and kept doing everything that God told them not to do, and that was sin. But somehow that sin was turned into something else during generation. So we just have to watch our sin. Yes, yeah, it doesn't always be every child is their own person. Oh, sorry, every child is their own person, their own being, and they're gonna learn. I'm just saying that by us trying to put as much good in them will hopefully offset that which is, that will be bad. If you put you know, you know, um, a fruit or seed in the wrong environment, that seed or that fruit or whatever it may be is going to get corrupted by the environment and die. So we want to try to put the seed, our children, in the best environment possible that it can flourish and grow. Yes, and like you said, pray, and also help that hope that God also raise them. So it's a yes or no question. The children can be impacted positively based on the good things that the parents put in them. And I was talking about my father raising me. Like I know he did things wrong. Parent does things wrong, but he put so much good stuff in me as being a man and being a male that it's hard to think about all the bad stuff he did. And I want to go for the good stuff because that's the stuff he praised me in. You could do this. You can do this. You can do this. You can do that. So that's what I went after. If a parent doesn't put that in a child, a lot of times they go after the bad stuff. If you have a parent that's there and the child is interested in karate, but the parent is too busy to put that child in karate, then that child may go and get something else because their interest is in karate. So now they have all this free time. Now they get into other stuff. But if that parent is sacrificing time, sacrificing their money to put that kid in and pushing them in karate, that child is going to go after karate because that's where their heart lies, and that parent is backing them. So yes, it goes both ways.
Hey, Damien, there's also a follow-up comment. It says that I believe that their peers will have as much impact on them than the parents, even though the parents show them right. But he said, like, they agree. And I will say this too. During those years where your kids are like, mommy, daddy, that's your time to lay that foundation. Um, because yes, peer pressure and peer influence is very, very powerful. But again, I think if you show them right, even if they do stray a little bit, they're gonna come back. They're gonna that thing is going to pull them back. I believe the word won't depart from them. They'll know better. That doesn't mean they'll always do right. But I do believe that will pull them back, and hopefully the hope, and I do believe that it'll help them straighten out in the long run.
All right, I want to say this, and I want O come up, see what O has to say. Yes, I believe peer pressure is there, but I really believe that peer pressure can be outgrown or squashed based on the parent. Because if you invest that time into that child when they're young, into their desires and what they want to do, as in spending time, like I talk about how the child wants to spend time with the parent. God wants us to spend time with the father. So the more time we with the father, when we're not around the father, being that we spend so much time with him, we still do things to please the father, right? That's our lifestyle. We're not praying to God all day long, but we spend so much time with him that when we're not, I'm not saying not around him because he's everywhere, but when we're not like desperately trying to seek him out, trying to pray and worship and whatever, that we still do things to please the father because we spent time with them, right? I still believe that also applies to the natural. Once again, my father spent so much time with me and all my siblings with basketball. But once I really got into basketball, he spent time with me, out on the court, taking me to courts, taking me different places to play ball. So when I wasn't around him, I still went places, and the only thing I was focused on was still playing ball. Even though everybody else was, doing their thing, smoking and drinking, and not putting time into the game or whatever. When I went out, and I'm going to play ball, I'm going to play ball. And I'll be there from sun up to sundown balling, because that's what my father's put in me, and he knew that was my desire, so that's all I wanted to do. So likewise, yes, peer pressure is there, but peer pressure is only effective if you didn't show up the child and who they are. You know, if you tell your child, like, these things are going to happen, drugs are going to come, men and women are going to come, you know, you're going to be hurt, like all these things, let them know. And then you building them, like, but you can make it through because you have the ability to do so. If you put that in them, even when the parent is not around, the child is going to stand on that because the parent has put so much time into them. The father does that for us. Hey, you can make it through, you know, you can make it in his life and not sin. You can do this. You can turn down evil and you can choose the good. He says that to us. So when he's not around, we do those things. We don't be like, oh, peer pressure is getting me, so I'm going to do this. So I hear you, but I don't hear you, if that makes sense. What you think?
So here's my what I like to say. So there is I don't know what's it called, but there's a saying, so to speak, that in the household, they say this, in the household, there's a father that drinks constantly and is basically a drunk in the household. And you got two sons. There's two outcomes that can happen. One son can see that and see that's all he sees is his drunk father, and he'll turn to it when he gets older. The other son, which is another outcome, is he sees his drunk father all the way, and when he gets older, he strays away from it because he don't want to be that way. All right, so there's two outcomes, same situation. They both put in the same exact situation, but you can get two different outcomes.
So true.
So, as far as what you're saying, it's still a possibility. Let me speak for myself. I was brought up in the household where, you know, in the Shelter household, we went to church every day. I grew up in church and everything like that, you know, stay away from drugs and all like that. But the second I got free, I did it all. All right. Or I went ham. I went out, did stuff. So, but here's one thing I would like to say and point out. It goes back to putting God, or make sure and insinuating my child the importance of having a relationship with God. Because no matter what I did, no matter how my darkest hour, I got into a dark moment in time, right? And you know what the first thing I did? I prayed. I'm up here trying to run away from God. I'm up here trying to run. I mean, run. I said I've been brought up and going in this direction. As soon as I got my own, I'm like, I'm going in this direction. But as soon as I hit that dark place, the first thing I did was pray. The very first thing I prayed. So yeah, we can do all we can to try to keep them from going that direction, but I still feel as though they are their own person. You know, we can do all that we can to keep them away from them, but they're still their own person. But the best thing we can do, the very best thing we could do, is assure them the importance of having a relationship. Because all that time that I was trying to run away, what they were trying to send me to, and when I ran and I got so in a dark place, I still knew to pray.
And that's what I'm saying. Based on the stuff that they put in you about prayer, if they didn't put prayer in you, you probably would pray. So that's what I'm saying. So the more you with them, I'm not saying it don't happen, because what you're saying is absolutely true. It can go both ways. Why? Because when Adam sinned, what was born? A good child and a bad child. One was we call of the Lord, was a type of Jesus, which is Adam. Sorry, which was Abel, which speaks of a type of Jesus. And then there was Cain, which the scripture says that was of the devil. So from sin, you can go both ways, yes. But I'm just saying, based on how much time you spend with the Lord, and we see that with Cain and Abel. Abel spent a lot of time with the Lord. Cain didn't. Cain spent most of his time out in the fields doing stuff. Abel spent time with the Lord. So the more you spend with the Lord, I would say, or the more you spend with the parent, it increases the chance of that child, you know, coming out as you desire. And then somebody says here, you can have one parent, how much your children, but that each child may grow up to be different. Yes, that's true. But you got to also learn that parents learn as they are growing, as they're having more kids. So the very first child, they don't know how to parent. So they may be doing everything wrong. But by the last, they recognize, oh, I need to invest in this kid so that they don't, make mistakes or make the mistakes of the past the older siblings. So we learn as parents, and as we get older, we know what to do. By your third or fourth child, you got this down. Boom. The mother and father not even looking. Mother just throw the diaper, the father catching the air without looking. Boom, put the diaper on, because they've been doing it so long, they perfected it, and that happens, and you can see that in the children, because the oldest may not get certain attention, or may got a lot of attention because they were the only child, and you got the children in the middle. But by the time you get to the last one, they know it, they got it down, so they can be putting more into the child. You got to also think about usually too. This is the way how it may look, or this is how it typically goes. That as parents are working, maybe their financial things have changed. When they their firstborn, it was a struggle, poor and so forth, struggling with financial. But by the end, mom and dad can be executives of a business, so now things are easier. Now they can put more into the child, and that also affect how a child may make that decision as well. All right, so we pushed that hour mark. This was definitely a good conversation. I'll definitely be posting this up because I think it's a good topic. I think we covered some really good things. If you have any suggestions or comments, put those in the comments. So if you have any topics that you would like to discuss, please drop those below as well. There was nothing else I can think of. With this, you have any final comments? Any final questions?
No, not really.
Tiff, you have any final comments?
No. This was a good discussion, though.
No.
Well, like I said, we thank you guys. I gotta figure out what's happening with this camera because it's driving crazy. But like I said, I try not to push products on there or whatever. But my book is free. You definitely go and download it digitally if you want, and it's on parenting, not necessarily from like us being natural parents, but it kind of teaches us how we can be better people and our role as children, looking at the Lord. So I'll put that in the link in the comment section. Please go download that, leave comments, leave suggestions, leave your critiques, your disagreements, all that stuff. Everything's accepted. We all have our own opinion on things, and that was the purpose of starting this channel. Let me see, we got a couple more things. Somebody says also an environment. Yeah, environment is crucial. We did talk about that. We said, a fruit can't grow, or a vegetable or plant can't grow unless it's in the right environment. That's how it applies to a child. If you put them in the wrong environment, it corrupts, it dies. You put it in the right environment, it flourishes, it grows, it produces more fruit. So yes, and then someone said Proverbs 22:6. I'm curious. So let me look that up. Let me actually see what Proverbs 22:6 is, and I'll read it, and we can close with that. Proverbs 22:6. Excuse me while I find this. It says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. That's true. That's on the head there. You raise a child up, you try to teach them the best ways as possible. And then when they get older, even with things life, they may have this dark period in their life. But when that happens, they have the stuff that the things that we put in them to fall back on. And that's what you want. You want to establish in them a foundation. So when life does come, they can get back on the right track. And that is good parenting. Everybody's going to struggle. I'm just saying, like, there's going to be challenges. There's going to be challenges to everyone, whether it's mentally, it can be physically, it can be financially. Struggles are going to come somehow. And what we do as parents is build up a foundation for them. And that's why I also talks about scripture too. Like, you want to build up and store up for your child. So if it's financially, you want to work hard so that the generations that come after you do not have to work hard. That is how financial stability is started. If you want to talk about things like Rockefeller, all those guys, they started and they grind hard. Like, they come in this country, some of them had money, they had investors, but they grind hard, and then they started the wealth, and then they just passed that wealth on to the kids, and the kids built upon that, and they built upon that, upon generation, and that's what we have to do. If we want to break, financial curses or whatever, we have to work hard, realizing that there's an issue, and to try to start some type of financial thing for your child, a store up, so that when they get older, they don't have to struggle. Plan for their college, plan for them to have a house, all those things. And that's how you help your child out, is by looking at their future and determining what you want them to have. If you don't do that, if you don't store up for them, they ain't gonna have nothing when they get older. Unless they start like, you know what, I don't want to be like my parents. I want to store up, and they store up. So, work hard for your children, believe in your children, and don't look at your faults and failures. Just focus on all the good stuff as a parent.
And are we supposed to kick our kids out at a certain age once they get a certain age?
I actually thought that. I know you joking, but I actually
not really.
I actually used to think that as well, and then I got an answer from my pastor, which put that to rest, was that Jesus didn't leave the house until he was 30. And once I got that, I was like, okay, and I stopped answering, because I was like, oh, once you turn 18, you want to get them out. It's like, no, you support them, and you can support them till they're 30.
And how many 18-year-olds are ready to support themselves in real life?
I got about that.
I mean, I went to college, but like, without that net of being in college, please, I don't think I would have been ready to manage. I mean, I still moved out when I was in my early 20s, but even then, it was a learning curve.
Yeah, it's a deep learning curve.
Yeah, it's based on the child. Like, say, I'm not gonna say all 18-year-olds are gonna know. I saw the things that my father did, and I wanted different. So when I went to college, I worked 2 jobs. I worked 2 jobs with college full-time and played ball. So it's all about the child at that point, but you support them till they're 30. All right, so guys, once again, we thank you. We appreciate you chiming in with your comments, your feedback. Please share. Of course, like the video, give comments. Talk. Leave comments about where you like the channel to go, and we will go from there. So we will see you next Sunday at 6 o'clock. At this moment, we don't know what the topic may be. It comes during the week. Sometimes it comes at the end of this, these podcasts. But we will see you guys next Sunday. We love you. Take care of yourself. Be safe. Do your best for your children, for your family, for your spouses. So that we can all make it through this world changing event. And see each other when it's all done. We want to be here. So you guys take care, and we will see you next Sunday at 6.
All right.
Good night, everyone.